You may or you may not have heard of the words open space technology. And they are a phrase that captures a way of getting things done and a way of meeting. And it originated in the 1980s through Harrison Owen, who's easy to look up online, and open space technology is easy to look up too if you want to find out more. And I'm just going to apply it very specifically to a way of being, particularly I would say in high pressure environments like Fringe festivals. Now, open space technology began its life as a conferencing method, a way of coming together that was probably the polar opposite of how conferences were once done and still are, which is where you have a very fixed structure, you have a program that is usually set in advance. Academically, people put all their papers in that they want to present, and so we know what the program is in advance. Then we have our conference, and sometimes there's a set of proceedings published afterwards. And the feedback in the early days of open space technology from conferences like that, even when they were successful, and this is what Harrison Owen picked up on and had a kind of aha moment, because he was on the organising committee of one of those conferences over in the US, was that people were saying that they enjoyed the conference or didn't, but the most useful bits were actually the emergent bits, the bits that were self-organised in terms of what people decided to talk about. So not surprisingly, these were the informal spaces like the breaks and the lunch breaks and what was happening just beforehand and what was happening afterwards. And it was the emergent non-planned stuff where space opened for unplanned stuff, where people self-organised what they wanted to say and do, more than in the fixed sessions in meeting rooms, often with PowerPoint, was that was the bit they valued most. So that kind of appeared as an aha moment for Harrison Owen, and he wrote a book, he wrote a guide, and he tried a new method where the program was not fixed in advance. There was an invitation, so people freely came. There was a blank agenda on the wall, and there were just a few principles, which I would say in the early days did come across a bit like rules. But as this has thrived and developed in the world, and Harrison Owen himself has said that when you self-organise conversations rather than have them pre-organised and over-controlled and over-designed, these behaviours tend to happen. These principles tend to show themselves. And I'm just offering those now for you as a way to be. So you could do open space technology that's normally in a conference or a group for an open space of one person and you. And you can live according to those principles. And I guess the suggestion here is you might just find that all kinds of energy is released, all sorts of possibility happened that wouldn't have easily happened if everything's too over-planned, over-structured, over-controlled. So let me just run you through the principles and then put them in the context of, say, a large Fringe festival such as the Edinburgh Fringe, and just see where they land with you, and inviting you perhaps to gently try some of them. You might already live by them. You might just notice that this is how you live anyway. But in some ways they're permission. They're permission you give to yourself to not have to over-control everything, and just to kind of be part of the idea that nature is self-organising beautifully, and in a way those principles can apply to you as you make your way through what is the largest arts festival in the world. This applies to life in general. Let's go with them. Whenever it starts is the right time. And so that's not permission just to generally be late for everybody, but it is an invitation to be at ease with things in your life. Now, so I guess you might decide, as I do, to show up on time for people, to honour them and respect them. But that's not the same as getting really irritated and pissed off that everything isn't happening down to the minute or even the second. That sometimes things start when they do because that's how they need to start. That's what happens. And so having an ease with the fact, particularly at the Fringe, that sometimes people are running late for all kinds of reasons in Edinburgh. Suddenly there can be traffic problems, the buses are not going anywhere, and actually it can sometimes be like wading through treacle, just walking anywhere in Edinburgh. And so it can be that you've arranged to meet up with somebody, or you're trying to get into your venue, and though it might be difficult, it's starting when it starts for a bunch of reasons. And don't waste too much energy worrying about why it's not starting. And it could also be that just gently that you can suggest start times for meetings that have got a little bit of slack built into them. And it could just be that you notice things are running a bit late and you just allow that. You just kind of, in a good way, surrender to it, which releases stress that could have been there tapping your watch and getting angry. Sometimes things start when they are because that's simply when they start and they're meant to. So I would say in Edinburgh, be at ease with when things start. Wherever it happens is the right place. And it may well be that you've set up a meeting in a cafe, but it could well be that that cafe turns to have a queue halfway down the street. And in the end, you have the best conversation with somebody out in the sunshine, sitting on the steps of a fountain or one of the many statues in Edinburgh. Wherever it happens in the right place is, again, particularly I'd say in places like Edinburgh, is an ease for where it needs to be. It's a kind of a gentle noticing that we've moved venue. It could be a gentle noticing that we're not where we'd originally planned to be. And it could also be the positive thing that you are where you planned to be, but you look around and go, it's a bit noisy here, let's head somewhere quieter, and you just notice there's a park just around the corner. And wherever it happens in the right place, I think can even go digitally sometimes, that you notice that you were having a not very satisfying conversation online, and then you just say to colleagues, friends, why don't we just meet up in the pub around the corner? It turns out that we're nearby anyway, and you have a much better meeting. So the place it happens in is something that you also kind of sink into and welcome the invitation, not necessarily to be in the wrong place, but to notice that the place you're in, and sometimes when it's noisy, is you raise your voice and the conversation is a bit more energized as a result of it, that you lean in and you listen better. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have. A lot of people find this one very difficult, but all kinds of unplanned things happen at the Edinburgh Fringe, and they happened. So it's not always just accepting that there wasn't a better way of doing it, and we can learn and reflect gently over a cup of tea that maybe we should have done that a bit differently. But whatever happens did happen. So it was meant to happen because it did. And that's just, again, an invitation just to kind of welcome that things didn't turn out as they should have done, and not going to states of regret about what else might have happened. It's about not feeling down about it. It's about not being too fixed about, hanging on to what should have happened. And that allows you to flow better into what is happening, maybe out of your control. And there's absolutely nothing to be gained from getting grumpy, angry and stressed about it. When it's over, it's over. I find quite an interesting one, because time is often at a premium in the Edinburgh Fringe. We have so much to do when we're putting shows on, for example, or on schedule to go and see shows. And so just because you booked half an hour doesn't mean if we've said all we need to say in 15 minutes that, you could just draw close to it and say, right, let's go and do something else. Things end when they need to end, and sometimes it might well be that you book extra time, but sometimes the time it ends compared to what you thought it would take in terms of time is the time that is clearly there, and it frees up space. It opens space for other things to happen. Equally, if it's an important conversation and you invite it, it could be that the half an hour meeting turns into 2 hours, and we go somewhere really interesting and exciting in our thinking and possibility. So whenever it starts is the right time, wherever it happens is the right place, whoever comes are the right people is an interesting one, because certain people don't show up, and that's just how it is. And we don't need to regret who isn't there. We might again resolve that we'll go and chat to them in the future, but let's go with the people. They were the ones that showed up, and that can mean the audience that showed up. It could just be 2 people came, but they turned out to be far more attentive than an angry, noisy 15 distracted people. So we kind of sink into that as well. Finally, the law of 2 feet, or the law of mobility, is simply to give yourself permission that wherever you are at that particular time might not be the most productive place, and so be mobile. Just head off somewhere else. It's okay to leave meetings. There can be polite ways of doing it, but just to give your permission not to stay somewhere just because you have to. So finally, those are the principles I invite you to have a go at, to have a try at, and be prepared to be surprised. They were the principles of Harrison Owen, and you might want to look up open space technology and apply it to your own life.